Hi, this is Leslie with Silver Lining Knitting. This is the second video in my series on chart software, and I'll be looking at Chartminder, an online option for creating and using charts. This software can be used on any device with web access. There's a free version with very limited features, but the paid version is really reasonably priced at £15 a year, or about $18. Let's take a look at how it works. When you log in, you can connect to your Ravelry account if you'd like to. I haven't played around with this a lot because I don't generally keep track of my charts on Ravelry, but it could be a useful tool if you want to use it. I usually use my email to log in, so I'll do that. And it takes you immediately to the page with your saved charts. But first I want to take a look at the library of charts. It's quite an extensive library. There's over 2,000 of them, and these are all, you can access them for free. I think there's probably so many because you need to have a paid subscription to make a chart private. So a lot of them are here to be shared. If you click on a chart, you can add it to favorites if you have a paid account. You can download it, I believe, with a free account, which gives you probably a JPEG or a PNG that you can use offline. If you have the paid account, you can customize the chart yourself. So it makes your own copy of it. So it could be useful to find ideas and things from these charts. Now I'll go back to my charts. You can see the little eye icon tells me that it's a private chart, and I've made all of mine private because I tend to take charts from paid or other people's patterns and adapt them myself. So I keep them private so I'm not sharing anything that belongs to someone else. If you have multiple charts in a project, you can scroll through the previews, and you can drop down the list and open a chart that way. And so that'll show you what your chart looks like. Sometimes I'll get an error message if I haven't saved properly this one, and usually I just recover the changes. It gives you a warning if you're going to close a chart without saving, but if you just look at the chart, if you open it just to look at it, it will give you that warning. So sometimes I skip through and I get these error messages. But it's nice to have that warning so you save your work. Now let's go through the process of creating a chart. We click the New button. You can generate from an image, which I haven't tried to do, but it's a nice option to have. Or you can just create a blank chart. I'm going to give this a name and set rows and columns. The numbering options are limited in this system. It's just in the round or flat. And then you can choose whether you're going to use colors or symbols or both. I usually use both because then I can I don't have to add them in later. And then you can choose public or private. If you have a paid subscription, you have the private option. And we'll create the chart. So there's your working screen. You can see at the top there's a zoom option. I am going to zoom this in a little bit so that we can see it better. You have undo and redo buttons here. Here you can save the chart. You can also download, I believe, a PNG file, or you can save a copy of it, which is handy. Then over here we have a drop-down menu with some other options. There's a gauge calculator, which again I haven't really used. I use my charts with multiple different kinds of yarn and looms, so I don't set them up with a gauge. You can resize, so you're just going to change the number of rows and columns in the chart there. You can repeat the entire chart either vertically or horizontally, which is a nice option. And the outlines feature I will get to in a minute, so I'm going to skip over that. Formatting options, you can change the grid lines. I generally do increase that to medium because I find it a little easier to see. You can change the color and typeface of the text. You can also change the appearance of the symbols. I generally do change it to heavy instead of normal. If you change the color, it will affect all of the symbols. You can't pick a color for an individual symbol, which is sort of less flexible than some of the other systems I've seen. Let's see what else is in this. The numbering, again, this gives you the original, this is basically flat or in the round, which is your only options. And you can change the starting row and stitch if you'd like to. This stitch view looks like this, which could be handy if you're doing a color chart. Gives you a more realistic idea of what it's going to look like, but I find it kind of confusing for stitch symbols, so I generally keep mine in grid view. And then you can toggle the legend on and off, which there you go, you can see it there. That's useful if you want to download the chart. And this bottom part is just your standard help options. Now I'm going to demonstrate that outline tool that I mentioned earlier. This is one way that you can mark stitches in this system so that you can see where you are in the pattern. So I'm going to highlight a column by clicking on the number, and then I'll click that outline feature, and you can see it's marked that column with a color. I will add some others because it's easier to add them all at one time. And then we'll change the colors of them. So now I have several columns outlined. I'll go over here to this menu and click on that outline tool. Then I can change each individual color. I generally put markings at the edges of the main part of my pattern because I'll do a garter stitch border, and this will mark the edges of that. Then I've got one in the middle and some others that are sort of just strategic spots for a pattern. I find that's a really helpful way to keep track while I'm knitting. So now I have several outlines, and I can see as I'm putting in my stitches, that helps me find where they belong. Before you begin adding colors and symbols to your chart, it's best to get them added to this bottom toolbar. So I've clicked on the color option. I can change the colors that are there. There's a pretty nice color picker in this. There's a simple one that just allows you to choose from these few choices, and then there's a more robust color picker with these sliders that's really useful. You can also enter a hex code if you know that, and red, green, and blue values. So this is a pretty good tool in this software. Now the symbol library is not so great. It gives you the default knit and purls. I actually like to use a dash instead of a dot for my purls, so I'll change that one. And then you can add other symbols, and you'll notice that there really isn't a very big symbol library here. You have your basic decreases and increases. These are the parts of cables, and they're each one cell, so you have to, in order to make a wide cable, you have to add the parts together. So it's a really cumbersome system, and it doesn't have any brioche symbols really. So it's nice to use for lace patterns, but it's not great for some of the other more complicated patterns that I do. But I will add a few of these so we can get started. And another thing that you can do is, once you've got them set up, if you want to move them around, you can move them to the left or right. So sometimes that's a nice feature to have. And the usual methods for adding the stitches, let me get this a little bit bigger so I can see. You can click on a single cell, or you can drag across multiple cells. You can also use the fill option, so I can highlight a row or column and fill it in, which is a nice shortcut to have. The Select Copy Paste tool in this software is not quite as convenient as the one in Knitting Chart from my last video, but it does work pretty well, so I'll show you how that one works. You're going to click on that Select tool, then you can highlight a section that you want to copy, then you copy the stitches. Now here's where it gets a little more complicated. You can't just drag this selection around, so you have to turn it off and then make a new selection where you want to copy your stitches. So I will do here and then paste, and you can see it's copied that section. Then you can flip it horizontally or vertically if you want to. There's also this little tool to rotate 90 or 180 degrees. It doesn't quite behave the way I expect it to, so I haven't used this very much, but it might be a useful tool to have. And I think I am going to undo those couple of things that I did, so you can see where it's relatively easy to copy and paste something in this software. Let's take a look at the knitting mode for this software. The option is down here, and you can see it grays out the whole chart except for the row you're on. You have some handy buttons for previous and next row, but notice that the outline doesn't show up in this working mode, which makes it hard to see your stitch markers. If I'm making a chart that doesn't have colors, color work or brioche, where I'm not using colors, I'll just fill in the whole row or the whole column with a color, and that will show up then in knitting mode. But if you're doing a chart with other colors, then that doesn't work. So that's one of the downsides of this software. But one nice little feature is that when you click the legend for that to show during working mode, it stays in that corner and you can scroll around and it's always right there. Here's a recap of the pros and cons of this system. On the plus side, it's reasonably priced and can be used on any device. It has a pretty good copy-paste mirror feature too. On the negative side, it has a very limited stitch library and download options. The outlines don't show in the working mode, and since it's online, you need internet access to use it. Overall, this system isn't as versatile as the Knitting Chart app from my last video. The next video in this series will explore Stitch Fiddle, which is another online option. Don't forget to comment below with questions or suggestions, like and share the video, and subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified when I post something new.